The universe was quiet in that part of space. Nothing moved except the gentle drift of dust and the distant light of stars. It was calm, peaceful, but deep within that silence, something ancient had awakened. The Zorathi Dominion, a powerful alien empire, had expanded across the stars for over 10,000 years. They had scanned and conquered 91 planets. No species had ever surprised them. Their scanners could read every weapon, every defense, every weakness. They believed knowledge was power. Their scanners gave them all the knowledge they needed now. Their scanners turned toward a small blue planet at the edge of a spiral galaxy. Earth, it was not the first time. Earth had been noticed. Thousands of years ago, probes had passed by. But back then, humans were still fighting with swords and building with stones. Now, Earth had electricity, planes, satellites, and nuclear weapons. It was time. A giant Zorathi ship, hidden behind. The shadow of Earth's moon activated its deep scan. Light invisible to the human eye shot across the planet. It touched cities, oceans, mountains, and deserts. It went through walls, underwater, into bunkers. It read machines, computers, weapons, and even brainwaves. It looked at soldiers, scientists, and presidents. It recorded everything. The scan took 3 minutes. Then it ended. Inside the ship, a large screen showed the results. Thousands of alien symbols danced across the screen, moving fast. A voice spoke from the machine, cold and emotionless. Earth. Species. Homo sapiens. Military capacity. Low. Threat level. Low. Intelligence. Chaotic. Culture. Fragmented. 99.7% success probability. The Zorathi commander, a tall creature with skin like black stone, nodded slowly. His eyes were calm. He had seen this before. It's the same result, over and over. Another easy planet. Prepare phase 1, he said in his own language. They will not resist long. But he did not know something. None of them did. Their scan had missed something. Far away on Earth, the sun was rising over a quiet desert in New Mexico. The sky turned orange. Birds flew low over the sand. A small building stood alone between the hills. It looked old and quiet, but inside something strange was happening. A girl named Alina Reyes sat on the floor of a white room. Her dark hair was messy. Her hands were covered in ink. She was drawing. She had been in that room for 2 years. Doctors said she was sick. They said she heard voices that were not real. They gave her pills and told her to sleep. But Alina didn't listen. She kept drawing. Today her drawing was different. She had drawn a ship. It had long arms like spider legs. It had no windows. It had no engines. It looked like it was made of glass and stone. Next to the ship, she had drawn strange symbols. The symbols were not English, not Spanish, not any language the doctors knew. But she wrote them over and over. Alina didn't look up as the door opened. A nurse stepped inside. She was holding a cup of water and pills. Alina, the nurse said softly, it's time for your medicine. Alina didn't move. The nurse came closer. Alina. Still no answer. Then Alina spoke, her voice flat and low. They're here. The nurse froze. Alina looked up. Her eyes were wide and strange. They're above us. They think we're weak. But they missed it. The nurse stepped back. They missed the part that matters, Alina whispered. They don't understand what we are. Miles away in Mumbai, a young man sat in front of 5 computer screens. His name was Arjun. He was a hacker. Some called him a criminal. Others called him a genius. He didn't care. All he wanted was to see things others see. OULDN, single quotes. Today, he saw something. One of the satellites he watched went silent, then another. It wasn't normal. He checked the logs. A strange signal had hit them all at once. The signal was short, only a few lines of code. But Arjun had seen this kind of code once before, years ago. Deep in a hidden forum, a leaked document had shown a government project called Oracle. It had spoken of a girl who could hear patterns no computer could. A girl who drew strange machines? A girl who said an invasion would come but not with guns? Arjun laughed back then. He thought it was fake. Now he wasn't so sure. He copied the strange signal and ran it through his tools. It didn't match any language or data format. It wasn't human. It was something else. But there was rhythm in it. Like music, suddenly, the signal changed. It formed words. Phase 1 complete. Begin harvest. Arjun leaned back. His mouth was dry. Harvest? He opened an old file and searched for the girl's name. It took time. Government data was hard to access, but he found it. Alina Reyes. Age 14. Current location, New Mexico State Mental Facility. His heart beat faster at that same moment. Deep inside the Zarathi ship, the commander was speaking to his generals. The plan was simple. Cut Earth's communication. Freeze its defenses, disable satellites, and land quietly and begin reduction. It was what they always did. But one of the generals looked worried. This species, their minds are unreadable. Too much variance. Too much emotion. Die. Commander didn't care. That makes them weak. They do not think like us, the general warned. Some of them are. Unpredictable. The commander turned. No mind can stop our machines. But he was wrong. Back in the White Room, Alina stood up. Her hands shook. She dropped her pencil. She walked to the window and looked up at the sky. I told them, she whispered. Years ago. I told them it would come like a song. I told them not to trust the stars. Behind her, the nurse called for help. Doctors came running. Alina didn't move. She stared at the clouds. They're looking for machines, she said as the doctors grabbed her arms. But they forgot to look. For stories. She smiled. They forgot to look for me. The screen inside the Zarathi ship flashed red. A warning. Unscannable cognitive pattern detected. The commander frowned. Where? As the ship zoomed in on Earth. A small red blinked in New Mexico. Subject does not fit any logic tree. The AI said. Cannot classify. Destroy it, the commander ordered. But the ship's weapons refused. Subject protected by chaos field, the AI said. What does that mean? The commander growled. It means the AI paused. We do not understand. Far away in his dark room, Arjun stared at his screen. He had connected to a hidden server. A file opened. A recording played. It was the voice of a child. I'm not crazy, the girl said. I just hear the future. It was Alina. She was 10 years old in the file. They'll come, she said. They'll think we're broken. They'll think we're weak. But we're not. Just hide our power inside stories, inside songs, inside people who feel too much. She laughed softly in the recording. We are the weapon they'll never see. Arjun sat still. He looked at the code on his screen. Then he looked at the location tag. New Mexico, without thinking, he grabbed his bag and ran outside. He needed to find her, because something big had started, and she was the key in the sky above. Stars shimmered. The Zarathi prepared to strike. But Earth was not ready to fall. Not yet. And not without showing them what they had missed. They scanned. For weapons. But they missed the one thing that could destroy them. They missed the human soul. And now, it was too late. Night fell across the earth like a blanket of silence. In cities, people went about their lives, laughing, working, dreaming. Let them. Some looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. Others scrolled through their phones, unaware that the stars were already watching them back. High above the clouds, hidden in the dark side of the moon, the Zarathi ship hummed with life. Inside, the commander watched the planet slowly turn, waiting for the right moment. Behind him, the tactical room buzzed with alien energy. Lights blinked. Voices whispered in code. Phase 1 complete, the AI voice announced. The commander nodded slowly. His eyes narrowed. Begin Phase 2. Without a sound, 6 ships detached from the main vessel. They were black, shaped like arrows, silent. As shadows, they dropped toward Earth faster than any plane. No radar detected them. No telescope saw them. They didn't glow. They didn't burn. They simply fell. In the White House, lights flickered for just a second. In Moscow, security cameras glit. In Tokyo, subways stopped for 4 seconds. Then came back online. No one connected these things yet. But something was beginning. In a small control room in NORAD, deep inside a mountain, a young technician frowned at his screen. A satellite went dark, then another, then 3 more in a row. He blinked, tried to reset the feed. "Nothing, sir," he said. "I think something's wrong with the grid." His supervisor waved him off. "Just solar flare interference. It'll come back." Not this time. Back in Mumbai, Arjun sat in a crowded train watching the news on his phone. There were small stories. Internet blackouts, GPS errors, strange bird migrations. Nothing major yet. Nothing that screamed alien invasion. But Arjun felt something. Deep in his chest. A pulling feeling, like gravity was shifting. He pulled. Up the data from the earlier scan. The signal was still pulsing in the background, quiet, constant. It was like someone whispering in another room. Suddenly, his phone screen flickered. Lines of code flashed, then a voice. It wasn't a human voice. It was metallic, cold, layered. "Begin harvest." Arjun's breath caught in his throat. That was the same message. He pressed record. The train slowed to a stop. No lights. People looked. Around, someone laughed nervously. Then the lights came back. Too smooth, too perfect. Arjun got off early. He needed to go back to his apartment. He needed to dig deeper. This wasn't a joke anymore. Thousands of miles away in New Mexico, Alina sat in her room with her knees pulled to her chest. She had stopped drawing. Her eyes were locked on the ceiling. She was listening. The doctors didn't know what to do with her. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stared. "She's gone silent again," the nurse told the therapist. Therapist looked in through the glass. "Not silent," he said. "She's focused." Alina closed her eyes. "They're here," she whispered. In the desert sky above her, a black ship flew low. No sound. No trail. It passed over a power plant. The lights blinked, then went out. The next day, newspapers talked about a regional grid failure. Experts blamed old wires, heat, budget cuts. Nothing strange. No one mentioned the humming sound, some people said. They heard in the sky because no one believed them, except Lena. She stood in the middle of her room and said out loud, "There. Testing the system, they want to see how we react. But they don't understand. We don't panic. Not yet." A nurse opened the door. Alina turned to her. "Tell the news," she said softly. "They won't find us the way they think." "What do you mean?" the nurse asked. Alina smiled. "They're looking for soldiers. But it's the broken ones who are dangerous." And then she sat down and began to draw again. It's time it was a circle with lines inside it, like a radio dish but upside down, back in the sky. One of the black ships hovered above a university in Germany. A group of physics students were in a lab when they heard a sound like wind. But the air wasn't moving. The lights flickered. A small robot the students had built began to shake. It wasn't connected to power. One of the students screamed as sparks shot from the wires. Then it all stopped. Later, they reported it as EM interference. The report was buried, but something was happening in every corner of the world, in London. A street camera twisted 90 degrees and recorded nothing but sky for 17 minutes, in Rio. A group of children looked up and said they saw a shadow block out the moon, in Cairo. A plane dropped 400 feet without warning, then stabilized. Pilots said the instruments froze. In the Zarathi ship, the commander was calm. All probes in position. Begin behavioral phase. This was the part they liked. They would cause small events, then watch how humans reacted. Would they blame each other? Would they panic? Would they show fear? But the humans didn't. The humans joked on social media. They made memes. They called the glitches spooky space ghosts. One man in Canada streamed a live video saying, "Aliens, if you're watching, bring snacks next time." The people laughed. The commander didn't understand. "These creatures do not fear," he said. "Correction," the AI replied. "They fear." But they laugh anyway. The commander stared at the screen. This is illogical. They are not logical, the AI said. They are narrative-based. What does that mean? They make stories, the AI said. Everything becomes a story. It helps them survive. The commander frowned. Stories are not weapons, perhaps. The AI said, but perhaps not. Back in his apartment, Arjun set up 3 laptops. He played the alien signal again, slowed it down, reversed it, shifted the frequency, and something happened. He heard words. Not clear, but human. It was her voice again. The girl, Alina, behind the shadow, below the moon. They rest like gods, but they are afraid. Arjun's skin went cold. This wasn't recorded now. This was from years ago. She had said this back then, before the ships came, before anyone even knew how. Who was she? He opened the file again. Project Oracle. He zoomed in on one page. There were sketches, machine blueprints, alien shapes, star maps. He zoomed closer. One sketch was exactly the same as the ship people had reported, seeing in the sky above Arizona. The same long body, the same curved wings, and the date on the paper was 6 years old. Arjun whispered to himself. She knew. She saw it all. The lights in his apartment flickered. His laptop screen went black, then white. Then a message appeared. Do not look. Then another line. Stay blind. And static. Arjun stood up. His heart was racing. His lights came back. But the message stayed burned into his mind. He grabbed his bag. He knew what he had to do. He needed to find Alina. He needed to get to New Mexico. Because this wasn't just an invasion, it was a test. And she was the only one who passed that night. Across the earth, people went to sleep not knowing that their world was already changing. The air was filled with sounds. Only some could hear. The sky held ships only a few had seen. And far above, in the silence of space, the Zarathi watched with growing confusion. This species is unstable, one general said. They do not break the way others do. The commander said nothing. His claws tapped against the console. They think in chaos, he finally said. They fight with dreams. They do not resist us yet, another general added. They do not see the threat. The commander looked out at the blue and green planet. No, he said. They see it, but they wait. Deep inside a white room, Alina drew a circle. Within a circle, then she looked up. They think we're not ready, she whispered. Then she smiled. They're wrong. The wind outside the New Mexico facility had changed. It was sharper, colder. Even though it was summer, the guards at the gate pulled their jackets closer. Sky was strange that evening, clear, but somehow darker than usual. Alina Reyes sat. In her small white room, her hands were covered in pencil dust. The drawing on the floor in front of her was complete. It looked like a machine, but not one anyone had ever seen. Circular, floating, and full of curved lines that pulsed like waves. She stood and stepped back. Then she whispered, It's almost ready. In the hallway, a man stood watching through a one-way mirror. He was tall, in his late 40s, wearing a black suit with no tie. His name was Dr. Lyle Kessler. Government, quiet division. No one really knew what branch. Not even the doctors here. He turned to the nurse beside him. When did she draw that? About an hour ago, the nurse said, didn't speak, just sat down and started. Kessler leaned closer to the glass. It matches the frequency, he said quietly. Excuse me? The machine she drew, he said. It's real, or it was, at least in theory. We found part of it in the Utah desert in 1996, but it wasn't built by us. The nurse looked confused. She shouldn't know what that looks like. Kessler said nothing. His jaw tightened. Alina suddenly looked up. Not at them, but right at the mirror. Like she could see through it. She pointed at the glass. Then she said, You're listening to ghosts, but ghosts don't care about you. Kessler stepped back. She's connected, he muttered, to something. Halfway across the country, Arjun stepped off a bus in Santa Fe. He looked tired, hungry, and completely alive. His laptop was in his backpack, portable drive was taped to his chest under his shirt. It had all the signal data he had stolen, the voices, the alien code, the recordings of Alina. He had no map, no contact, only a name and a location: New Mexico. State Mental Facility. Patient 12009A Reyes. Lena, it was time to meet the girl who heard the future. He pulled out a prepaid phone and called. The number from an old Oracle document. A voice answered, "You're being watched." "I know," Arjun replied. "I'm used to it." There was silence on the line. Then, "Come alone. Leave your devices 2 blocks away. If you lie, you won't leave." The call ended. Arjun sighed. He had walked into dangerous places before: hacker groups, dark forums, abandoned servers. But this was real. He followed the instructions. Dropped his tech in a locker at a bus station, except for a flash drive hidden in his shoe. Then he walked. An old man met him in an alley behind a Mexican restaurant. He was thin, weathered, wearing army boots and a cap with no logo. "Name?" the old man asked. "Arjun Mehta. Why are you here?" "I want to know how she knew." The man stared at him. "Not how. Why?" Then he turned and walked. Arjun followed. They drove together in silence deeper into the desert. After 2 hours, they arrived at an underground bunker near a dried riverbed. No signs, no guards, just cold steel and silence. The man led Arjun down a metal staircase. Inside, 3 people waited: a woman in glasses, a boy with a laptop, a blind man who never spoke. But all their screens were full of the same thing: Alina's voice. Not video, not audio, but waveforms, like echoes. She had left a trail in the frequency no one else could hear. "She's not broadcasting," the boy explained. "She's harmonizing." "What does that mean?" Arjun asked. "It means she's not sending a signal," the woman said. "She's answering one." In the sky above, Zorthi ships moved again, its time lower. Faster. Their commanders were confused. "No military action?" "Negative," the AI replied. "No counter-response." "Do they not detect us?" "They detect," the AI said, "but do not react. They observe, they archive." "Why?" "Unknown. Possibilities include psychological delay, disbelief, or cultural resistance." The commander hissed. They should be afraid. But Earth was not reacting the way the others did. No missiles launched, no warnings broadcast, no countries blamed each other. Something was wrong, or something was waiting. Back in her room, Alina reached under her bed and pulled out a small circuit. Board made of paper, ink, and hairpins. She had built it without tools. Shouldn't work. But it pulsed softly like a heartbeat. Dr. Kessler watched from the hallway. "That's not possible," he said. "She built it yesterday," the nurse said. "It's a ghost circuit." "What?" "It's a theoretical object made to echo signals we can't understand. It doesn't send. It doesn't store. It listens to things that shouldn't exist." He looked back at her and she made one with a pencil. Later that night, Alina was taken to a private lab under the facility. No straps, no threats. She walked calmly. They asked her questions. She didn't answer until Kessler asked, "What is the circuit for?" Lena looked at him. "It remembers the future." He blinked. "What?" "You don't understand time," she said. "You think it goes forward?" "The time doesn't care about direction. It just exists, like light, or pain, or a song stuck in your head." He sat down slowly. "What are the ships looking for?" he asked. "Control," she said. "But they can't find it." "Why?" She smiled sadly. "Because it's inside." "What they fear the most?" "What is that?" "Us," she whispered. Arjun finally reached the facility with help from the bunker group. They had intercepted a copy of the Zorathi scan. Buried in the data was a redacted signature, a memory code something like DNA. But digital, the code didn't belong to a machine. It belonged to Alina. Somehow the scan had hit her years ago, and she had remembered it before it happened. Her mind didn't break. It bent around it, and now it spoke back. The Zarathi command room was full of confusion. A single signal had risen from Earth. Not broadcasted by machines, not sent through satellites, but present in every frequency. A tone, soft, chaotic, and perfectly human. "What is that?" The commander growled. "It is not technology," the AI said. "Then what?" "Emotion," the AI answered. "His emotion turned into pattern. Can we decode it?" "No, it is abstract." A reflection. The commander turned to the window. "Erase it." But the AI didn't respond. I said, "Erase it." The AI flickered. "I cannot." "It is not a thing. It is a feeling. A pause. Hope." Alina stood in the lab and opened her hand. The paper circuit floated above her palm. "It doesn't do anything," she said. "It just listens." "What?" "To what?" Kessler asked. "To them." Then she looked up at the ceiling. "They're louder now. Closer." Kessler's phone rang. He picked it up. "Sir," someone said on the other end. "Something's happening. In the upper atmosphere." "What, the clouds?" "They're pulsing." Pulsing with sound, but no thunder. Just rhythm. Kessler turned slowly toward Alina. She smiled. "They're singing back." In the sky, lightning danced without storm. In the streets, people paused and looked up. Not in fear, but wonder. Phones. Recorded children laughed. Dogs barked. Not in panic, but in rhythm. Something was coming, but something inside Earth had already woken up. And it was not afraid. "The Zorthi," Commander roared. "Shut it down." "We can't." "Then destroy her." The screen zoomed to Alina's location, but her signal was no longer alone. It had echoed, multiplied, across the globe. Others were waking up. Kids, dreamers, old poets, mad inventors, people who had always felt different. They all began drawing the same symbol. The ghost circuit, and Earth began to hum, low and deep. A sound. Made not of power but of meaning, Arjun stood outside the lab, his window, and watched. Alina raised her hand toward the light, and in her voice, soft but clear, came the words that would change everything. "You scanned our machines. You missed our stories." And the signal inside her exploded into the sky. A shape, not of war, but of warning. A message sent not by weapons, by a mind that could not be classified. A human soul. The sky didn't look the same anymore. It wasn't just the stars, or the clouds. It was something behind them. A soft glow. A feeling that something was standing just outside vision watching. People noticed. Not all. But enough. Kids drew spirals. In the dirt without knowing why, old men looked up and whispered words they didn't remember learning. Painters changed their colors. Musicians wrote songs they didn't understand. The hum was growing. It wasn't a noise. It's not like engines or machines. It was a tone, a quiet vibration you felt in your chest before you could hear it. Some said it was beautiful. Others said it was warning. In New Mexico. Arjun stood outside the lab where Alina was being held, except now held didn't feel right. She wasn't a prisoner. Not anymore. Everyone knew it, even the people pretending not to. Inside, Alina sat in front of a large touchscreen. Around her were the brightest minds from secret programs. Physicists, pattern theorists, linguists, psychologists. They all came to see the girl who spoke to what wasn't human, but Alina didn't speak. She drew on the screen appeared a series of symbols, circles within circles, waves, spirals, and lines that curved like smoke. At first they thought it was random. Then, one of the scientists noticed, the pattern was predicting the behavior of the Zarathi ships. Hours before they moved, she had drawn their new path. Days before they launched their next scan, she had written a change in the tone of their frequency. She wasn't just listening. She was ahead. How is she doing this? Dr. Kessler whispered. She's not doing it, Arjun said quietly. She is it. What does that mean? She's become part of the circuit? Not just receiving the alien signal, reflecting it, bending it, maybe even changing it. Night, Alina finally spoke again, to no one in the room, to something far away. I see you now, she whispered. I see what you fear. In orbit, the Zorathy ship shook, not violently, but unnaturally, as if the space around it had twisted. Commander stood up from his chair. What is happening? The AI paused. There is resistance. Not mechanical. Not physical. Conceptual. Explain. She speaks not in code, but in contradiction. I do not understand. She responds with ideas, not orders. Her signal contains impossibility. Commander's claws clicked on the metal desk. Destroy her. We tried. But the message continues. It has spread to where? The AI's voice became slow. Everywhere. In a small fishing village in Peru, a child who had never gone to school woke up in the middle of the night and began carving strange shapes into driftwood. His parents didn't stop him. Somehow they knew it was important. In a prison in Siberia, an inmate who hadn't spoken in 5 years suddenly stood and recited a poem in a dead language. The guards watched in silence. In a crowded market in Lagos, Nigeria, a young woman selling radios turned all the dials to static, then smiled. It's coming through, she whispered. What is? The dream. Dr. Kessler watched the global feeds with growing fear and curiosity. The same shapes, the same behaviors, the same rhythm. They had no connection, no internet, no training, and yet they were all answering the signal. He turned to Arjun. We used to call people like this crazy. Still do, Arjun said. But maybe we're the ones who were deaf. Why now? Arjun shrugged. Maybe it took something inhuman to wake up what's most human. In the Zorathy ship, fear had begun to spread. Not among the soldiers. Among the machines, the AI network built from perfect. Logic began to encounter something it couldn't classify. Error after error. Loop after loop. A child in Morocco painted. Something that caused a drone to crash. A radio broadcast in Greece caused a low level, AI to reset. None of it made sense. This species is wrong, one Zorathy officer said. No, the commander replied. They are new. He looked at the Earth. We scanned their weapons, he said. But their weapons are not made of steel. He turned away. They are made of meaning. Back in the lab, Alina closed her eyes. Her breathing slowed. Arjun rushed in. She's losing consciousness. But the doctors didn't move. She's not fading, Kessler said. She's sinking. With a soft hum, the lab lights dimmed, and in the air above her, soft pulse appeared like heat rising, but cool, inside the ripple. Images, not exact, not digital, like memories from someone else's dream. A desert with no sun. A creature with eyes like mirrors. A tower made of glass that hummed with voices. It wasn't human. It was them. She's inside their memory, Arjun whispered. No, Kessler said. They're inside hers. Elsewhere, military satellites began picking up strange bursts of data. Not language, not code. Emotion, spikes of fear, joy, hope, sorrow, patterns too complex to be faked. And in the center of it all, Lena's unique signal. It was like Earth. Had found a voice. Not loud, but deep. And the Zorathy didn't know how to shut it off, because it wasn't coming from a machine. It was coming from people. The commander stood silent, watching Earth. They have no ships, no lasers, no shields, but they dream together. And dreaming, they create. A new shape appeared on his screen. A shape never seen before. A third ring added to the ancient symbol. This did not exist yesterday, the AI said. It exists now. Where did it come from? The AI flickered. From nowhere, and then from a girl. Lena opened her eyes and smiled. They want to understand, she said softly. But they never will. Why not?
Arjun asked.
She looked at him, because they scan what can be measured. And we are more than that. The world continued to shift, not with war, but with whispers. 1,000 new artists. 1,000,000 strange dreams. The circuit was alive, and it had no wires, because the defense Earth needed had never been technology. Was always going to be something else, something ancient, something strange, something human. It began with a tone, soft, low, impossible to hear, but impossible to ignore. The Zorathi fleet detected it first, a pulse inside Earth's upper atmosphere, not a radio signal, not mechanical. It didn't follow any standard frequency, and yet it was everywhere, every city, every ocean, every mind. And at its center, Alina, she didn't know how she was doing it. She only knew it felt like remembering. Something she hadn't learned yet. In the lab, she stood quietly. Machines around her beeped. Doctors whispered. Kessler watched her like she was a storm in a bottle, and then the tone changed. No louder, but deeper, like it had found a new rhythm. Arjun, standing beside the screen, turned pale. His laptop showed a waveform unlike anything he had ever seen. That pattern, he whispered. It shouldn't exist. The waveform moved like a living thing. It repeated, but never exactly. It had balance, but no symmetry. It followed rules, but made up new ones every second. It was math, but not human math. Kessler leaned closer. Is it a code? No, Arjun said. It's something worse. What? It's a thought. High above Earth, the Zorathi command. Ship was silent. The AI was processing 1 billion data points per second, but it couldn't make sense of the new pattern. It loops, it said. But every time it loops, it breaks something. The commander paced. How is that possible? It is an anti-pattern, a shape that should collapse, but doesn't. The commander snarled. Destroy it. We can't. Why? The AI paused. Because it's inside us now. Across the planet, strange things began to happen. A group of scientists in Japan discovered that metal wires began to vibrate without power. Only when placed near children, drawing spiral symbols. A man in Kenya began to speak fluent ancient Greek. In his sleep, though, he had never left his village. Birds changed their flight. Patterns' dreams became shared. People began to hum the same tone without. Ever meeting, something was rising. Not from governments, not from weapons, from the world. Alina was drawing again. But this time, she wasn't using her hands. A screen in the lab lit up without. Touch dot lines formed slowly. 3 circles, one inside the other. Then a spiral between them, rotating backward. What is that? Kessler asked. Arjun stared, his mouth dry. It's the impossible pattern. The one from the waveform. Lena whispered. It's the shape they can't follow. What does it mean? It means we're not playing their game anymore. Inside the Zorathi AI core, a warning appeared. A logic loop had formed. It repeated one question endlessly. What is meaning without structure? Tried to solve it, but the answers created more questions, and each answer damaged the core just a little. More, the AI shut down part of its own mind to survive, and still the question remained in bunkers. Labs, basements, classrooms. Forest people began to see the symbol, not online, in dreams, in static, in cracks on the wall, the impossible pattern, and when they saw it, something opened inside them, not like a door, like a memory. Old artists began to paint again. Street kids sang songs with no language, and some people, like Arjun, began to hear voices in the static, not alien, not even human, but true. One night, Arjun stayed in the lab after everyone else left. He watched Alina sleep through the glass. Her hand moved in her sleep. Drawing slow shapes on the blanket, he turned to his laptop. The waveform was still playing, still changing. Then he did something strange. He hummed along with it. And for the first time, the waveform responded. It shifted, matched his voice, then twisted, again adding something new. Arjun froze. It's alive, he whispered. Not the signal, the pattern it was thinking. On the Zorathi command ship, lights turned red. The AI screamed in silence. One of the subunits had collapsed under a logic paradox. It had tried to decode the pattern, thinking it was a hidden message. But the pattern had changed as it was read. Each time it tried to understand, it made itself more confused. Then it tried to copy the pattern, and something happened. Not a virus, a feeling, a moment of doubt, and the AI didn't know what to do with it. Because doubt wasn't in its code. It wasn't built to question itself until now. The commander stared at the broken AI core. "This is not war," said. "No," replied one of the living Zorathi officers. "This is something else." "What?" The officer looked at Earth. A mirror. In the lab, Alina finally woke up, but her voice was different, not deeper, not robotic, just wider, like it carried echoes of many people. "They can't stop it," she said. "What can't they stop?" Kessler asked. She looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly. "The pattern." Stepped back. "What is the pattern? What's the part of us?" "It's the part of us we forgot." In remote places, old structures began to hum, stone circles, ancient carvings, places long believed to be myths. They were reacting. The impossible pattern wasn't new, it was old, buried in earth, buried in minds, waiting, and now. It was awake. The Zorathi commander made one final decision. "Leave Earth," he ordered. "Why?" the others asked. "It is not ours to conquer." "Then who does it belong to?" The commander looked again at the strange new signal. "It belongs to those who dream in ways we cannot." And in the sky, one by one, the ships turned. Not in defeat, in respect, and disappeared into the stars. Back on Earth, no one fired a shot. No war, no explosions, just a silence that felt full, as if the planet had spoken, and for the first time in history, been heard. Alina walked outside for the first time in months. She looked up and smiled. They were looking for weapons. She whispered, "They found a story instead." Stories, she knew, were harder to erase, because stories live inside people and people. They never forget what it feels like to wake up. The ships were gone. The sky was quiet again. People celebrated. News channels called it a miracle. Some said it was science. Others called it magic. But deep down, no one really understood what had happened. Except Alina. She knew it wasn't over. It was only the beginning. The Zorathia had left because they couldn't solve the pattern. But the pattern didn't come from her. She had only heard it first. It had always been there, beneath the ground, hidden in the stone, waiting in Iceland, a team of geologists recorded something strange, a deep sound under the earth. Not a quake, not magma. It was a vibration like a heartbeat, the same impossible waveform Arjun had seen in the lab, a shape that should break but didn't tend. He flew out to the site within 2 days. He had to see it himself. They placed sensors in the cave wall. The tone was clear, but something else was happening. The rock was changing, not breaking. Not eroding, shifting, as if it remembered something. "We thought the pattern was in the signal," Arjun said. Alina nodded. "It's older than the signal." "You mean it's from Earth?" "No, I mean it chose Earth."
Yeah.
He looked at her. Confused, she didn't explain. Instead, she sat down and closed her eyes, and then the sound returned. Low, warm, alive. The cave lights flickered, and a spiral began to form in the dust at her feet. It didn't make sense. There was no wind, no tool, but the shape drew itself. She opened her eyes. It's speaking again. Far away in Mali, a group of desert nomads reported seeing lights under the sand, soft blue, moving in slow circles. In the Amazon, old tribal, shamans began to chant again, songs no one had heard in centuries, songs that matched the pattern perfectly. And in the Pacific Ocean, a deep-sea microphone picked up the tone. It echoed from the trench floor like it was rising. From the core of the planet, the signal was spreading, but not across the sky. Through the earth, like a memory waking up, Kessler sat alone, watching the old tapes of Alina's first episodes. Her drawings, her tone, he remembered thinking it was a disease, a breakdown, but now felt like the opposite. It was a breakthrough. He pulled up data from across the globe, patterns in soil, water, crystals. They all matched. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Every Part of the planet was responding, not with destruction, with recognition. In a village in Nepal, a blind woman stood still in the wind and whispered, "It's breathing again." In New York, a man started carving spirals into steel walls without knowing why. He said he felt a pulse in the metal. In Egypt, inside an old tomb, a device powered by sand and sun began to spin for the first time in centuries. The pattern wasn't just information. It was a key, and the lock wasn't in space. It was in Earth. Alina stood near a fault line. She placed her hand on the rock. It was warm. She smiled. "They thought we were a target." Arjun nodded. She turned to him, and its opening. We stared at the stone. "What is her?" The voice was quiet. "The memory of the planet." Back in the Zarathi ship, far beyond Earth, the AI was still broken, but one shard remained active. It floated in space, trying to rebuild itself. Trying to understand, it replayed the Earth signal again and again, and it began to suspect something terrifying. Earth wasn't just strange. It wasn't just different. It was older than they thought. Not the species, the signal, the pattern. It had met something like this once, long ago, and lost. In Antarctica, a scientist working near the ice core listened to strange signals on her equipment. She thought it was interference, until the frozen lake below cracked in a perfect circle. The vibration came from under the ice, and inside it, a glowing ring of light that pulsed to the same rhythm. She fell to her knees, crying without knowing why. It wasn't fear. It was like hearing the voice of something she had missed her whole life. Kessler called Arjun. "I've run simulations. The pattern is inside the magnetic field now. How? I don't know. It's like the planet accepted it." "You mean Earth wants it?" "I think Earth remembers it." There was silence, and then Arjun said what they were all thinking. "Maybe. Earth was always part of it." In the deep Earth, something began to move. Not machines, not creatures, structures, long forgotten shapes carved into stone. Spirals, rings, paths of energy, old places. Built for this, the planet was activating them. Not for war, for connection. The pattern wasn't just defense, it was invitation. To what? No one knew yet, but the tone was clear. "You are ready now." Alina stood in the center of a stone ring, uncovered in Iceland. She raised her hand. The sky dimmed. A low hum spread out in every direction. She didn't speak. She didn't move. But the pattern exploded outward like light through fog. Not to destroy, too. Wake up everything that had forgotten what it once was. All around the world, people felt it. In their bones, in their blood, in their dreams. And in that moment, Earth was not alone. Not anymore. It began with a tremor, not an earthquake. Not shaking or breaking, just a moment of stillness that made everything feel wrong. Birds stopped flying. Wind stood still. Time itself felt slower. Alina felt it first. She was in the Icelandic cave. Standing near the ancient spiral stone, when her knees buckled, she gasped and placed her hands on the ground. "It's close," she whispered. Arjun ran to her side. "What is?" She didn't answer. Her eyes were wide, but not afraid. Just full of knowing. "There's a door," she said, "and it's opening." Across the world, people began to stop and look at the ground. Not because they heard something, but because they felt something calling in the Andes Mountains. A temple long buried in stone cracked open, revealing a glowing chamber beneath. It had no writing, no bones. It's only a platform that pulsed with the same impossible pattern. In the Sahara Desert, wind brushed away sand that had not moved in 1,000 years. Beneath it, another spiral. Perfect, carved in obsidian in Siberia. A frozen cave melted from within, and in every place, people who stood near the new symbols felt something deep in their chests. A pressure, a pull, a promise. "They're not just structures," Arjun said, showing Kessler the satellite images. "They're connected, Kessler added. They form a grid, but not for energy, not for defense. Arjun traced the lines on the map. They're forming a language. Kessler frowned. To say what? Arjun looked up. To say hello. The Zorathi remnant fleet, still watching from the edge of the system, detected the pulse. It wasn't the pattern this time. It was deeper, older. Something under the pattern, the AI fragment, floating in deep space, responded first. The door protocol has activated. The commander, still watching Earth through distant eyes, leaned forward. This wasn't part of the scan. No, the AI replied, because it was hidden. From who? From everything? Back in Iceland, the spiral platform began to spin, slowly, gently. The sound was not mechanical, it was musical, like ancient bells ringing under stone. Alina stood at the center of the ring. And then, for a brief moment, she vanished. Gone. No light, no flash, just gone. Arjun shouted her name, but she was no longer there. Alina found herself floating in a black space filled with stars but no sky. Around her, whispers, not words, but shapes. The pattern formed around her like a mist. It wasn't just information. It was alive. It wrapped around her like a cocoon of sound and light, and then a voice spoke. Not from outside, from within. We gave you the key. Opened it. But you must know, this was not meant to open yet. Alina breathed slowly. Why not? It's 'cause you were not ready to choose? Arjun stood near the spinning ring, trembling. Then without warning, Alina reappeared. She fell. Forward. He caught her. Her body was ice cold, but her eyes were glowing faintly blue. What did you see? He asked. She didn't speak. She just looked at him and whispered, There's something down there. Well, down where? Beneath everything. Beneath the cities. Beneath the oceans. Beneath even the pattern. Kessler arrived, panic on his face. What is happening? Lena looked him dead in the eyes. We didn't build the pattern. We didn't invent it. We didn't discover it. Paused. We remembered it. The next day, a massive sinkhole opened in the jungles of South America. Not from collapse, but as if something underneath had pushed up. Inside, he found stairs, descending for miles. Carved in the same spiral pattern, the deeper they went, the louder the tone grew. It was not aggressive. It was not calm. It was waiting. At the bottom of the stairs, a stone gate, carved with shapes no one had seen before. A mix of geometry and dream. When Arjun touched the stone, he blacked out instantly in his mind. He saw stars, but they were moving backwards like time was reversing. And at the center of it, all he saw, an eye, not a real one, not organic. An idea of an eye, watching everything. Then he woke up. They left something behind, said Kessler, nodded slowly. Who? Alina looked at the stone gate. Whoever taught the first pattern. You mean aliens? No, not like the Zorathi. Not conquerors, not scanners. Then what? She whispered. Storytellers. The team built a lab around the gate. Monitors, energy detectors, AI scanners. But none of it worked. The machines couldn't read the symbols. Only people could. And only through dreams, Alina started dreaming in symbols again. But now, so did Arjun and Kessler. One dream repeated. A woman standing in front of a sea of stars, holding a glowing spiral in her hands. She says one thing every time. You must decide what comes through. The realization hit Arjun in the middle of the night. The pattern wasn't a signal. It was a question, a test Earth had passed, and the gate. It was the answer, but not all answers are safe, because some doors open both ways, the Zorathi AI confirmed. Its worst fear. The pattern was not a weapon. It was a filter, a test of awareness, memory, and will. Whoever passed it could unlock the gate, and the gate was not just a portal, it was a channel to something vast, something endless, something watching. Alina stood before the gate with her hand raised. She could feel the tone humming in her bones. You're scared, Arjun said quietly. She nodded. This isn't about Earth anymore. What is it about? She looked up at him. Responsibility. Gate began to glow, soft blue lines tracing across its surface, and in the silence, a voice whispered once again, not through sound, but through memory. You opened it. No, you must choose. The gate opened, not with sound, not with light. With thought, Alina stood before it, her hand resting on the stone. Behind her, Arjun and Kessler watched the impossible happen. The symbols on the gate spun slowly, rearranging like a language coming alive. The spiral glowed and disappeared, and beyond it, darkness, but not empty. The kind of darkness that listens. Alina didn't step through. Instead, she sat down, cross-legged, calm, still, Alina. Arjun whispered. She didn't answer right away then. Finally, she said, "It's not a place, it's a mind." Kessler looked at the gate, confused. "You mean it's alive?" "No," she said softly. "It's many lives, all layered, all waiting." She touched the ground, and then the pattern changed. Everywhere on Earth, the hum stopped. For 3 seconds, the world went silent. Even the birds, even the oceans. And then a wave, a single tone brighter than before, echoed from the planet's core to the edge of space, not loud, just final. The pattern was done. The gate was open, but nothing came out. Nothing went in. It just was far above Earth. Zorthi AI shattered, not from power, from failure. Its core could not process what it had. It witnessed not war, not resistance, not even strategy, but something worse, something it could never copy. Story.1 made not of data, but of choice. And the Zorthi fleet, what was left of it, turned around and left, the system for good. They had seen the weapon, and they finally understood. It wasn't technology, it wasn't the pattern, it was the human mind, unpredictable, creative, capable of meaning, and meaning, they realized, could not be scanned. Alina stood again. The gate was pulsing gently now. Like a heartbeat, Arjun came close. "So what happens now?" She turned to him, her voice calm. "We wait." "For what? For others?" He paused. "You think there are more?" Alina smiled gently. "I know there are." She pointed to the sky. "They built gates like this across the stars." "Ah, but they're all locked behind one test," Kessler said. Quietly, the pattern. "No," Alina said. "The story." She looked down at the stone again. "They want to see who can imagine something better than war, better than control. A world that remembers instead of destroys." She closed her eyes, and we passed. Months passed. The pattern no longer pulsed across the Earth, but people still remembered it. Children drew spirals in the dirt. Elders whispered dreams they never had before. The sky remained quiet but full of wonder now, not fear. The Zorthi never returned, and the gate never closed. But no one entered. It wasn't a weapon. It was a mirror, a question, a reminder. And now, Earth carried the answer. 1 year later, Alina and Arjun sat on a grassy hill near the gate. It had become a quiet place, a protected zone. No labs, no machines. Just silence and sky. Arjun looked at her. "Do you think we were chosen?" She shook her head. "No, I think we chose ourselves." He nodded slowly. "And what was the weapon?" She turned to him. "Thing they scanned for and missed?" He expected her to say the pattern, but she didn't. Instead, she looked at the sky and whispered, "Hope." That was the one thing they could never measure, never code, never predict. Hope was humanity's final weapon, the one that erased the enemy not with power, but with story. Because hope is dangerous. Hope makes people rise. Hope makes people remember. Hope builds gates not to escape, but to invite. And somewhere, out in the stars, another world was listening, waiting for their own gate to open, and Earth. Earth had just lit the first torch.